Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. My name is Ayuba Ilya, and yes, it's a beautiful morning in the capital city, despite the frustration of a lot of commuters trying to get fuel, trying to move around to their places of work. Well, it's been very hectic for me personally as well. I mean, this morning you needed to see the queue, in the filling stations, which of course started about a week ago, and it's not abating really, and it's really frustrating. I hope that we'll be able to unravel this as soon as possible. The NNPC is giving assurances, and also the petroleum marketers are also giving assurances that this will end soon, and so we hope that it will end soon. This will be our focus on the Daybreak this morning, and also we'll be talking about the issue of the Zamfara state politics on the programs. As usual, we'll be bringing you the dailies on Daybreak and, of course, the news highlights and more. Now, let's begin with the news highlights. Now, Ottawa's police chief, Peter Slowly, has resigned after facing widespread criticism for the force's handling of an ongoing anti-government trucker protest in the Canadian capital. Reports say that Slowly had resigned and would publicly announce the move after an Ottawa Police Services Board meeting later. Slowly has come under widespread criticism as Ottawa police have failed to disperse a large group of Canadian truckers and their supporters who converged on the city late last month in protest of mandatory vaccination requirements at the Canada-US land border. Now, since then, the so-called Freedom Convoy participants have erected blockades at several border crossings, while a group has maintained what residents describe as an occupation of Ottawa's downtown core. Now, other stories. Nigeria's inflation rate has shown a 0.03% decline after an uptick that broke the 8 downward trajectory inflation was on before December 2021. Inflation rate went from 15.4% in November to 15.63%, an increase which is said to be caused by an increase in prices of goods and services as a result of upsurge in their demand during the festive season. The current headline inflation of Nigeria, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, dropped to 15.60 in January 2022. Urban inflation rate increased by 16.17% year-on-year. On a month-on-month basis, the urban index rose by 1.53% in January 2022. Now, rural index currently stands at 16.31% compared to 16.4% recorded in December 2021. Composite food index rose by 17.13% compared in January 2022 compared to the 20.57% in January 2021. Now, these are the news highlights this morning. Let's take a look at the events that shaped history on this day in our world. Well, today in history. Now, in addition to that, we also have the commemorative days that we are commemorating today on this day. Now, today is International Childhood Cancer Day, and it's an interesting one to have that awareness created. about childhood cancer. It's very important that today is being remembered. And also we have World Hippopotamus Day. Hippopotamus, one of the animals that we have in our world that we need to preserve as well. Remember, in the ecosystem, every other thing is needed. Every plant, every animal is part of the ecosystem. That helps us to coexist even as human beings. And that's also very important to preserve. Singles Awareness Day is today as well. That's being single. I recall that these are some of the memorable moments that you have as a person to build your future. A lot of opportunities come your way, which may not be guaranteed after you become married. So it's very important that you make the most of it. You take advantage of your prime age, what they call the prime age, to make the right decisions into your future. And that will determine how your entire life is going to turn out at the end of the day. Now, we also today remembering in 1842, the post office uses adhesive postage stamps for the first time. And that became a practice and a tradition all over the world. And even in Nigeria, if you recall, during the days of post office when it was booming, before the coming of technology and mobile phones these days, people relied heavily on post office to deliver messages, and even parcels and the rest of them to different parts of the country. So that has changed, with time. Even post offices all over the world are advancing in innovating, other ways of rendering services, logistic services, for instance. And so it's a very important day to mark today, to remember all of those things and how we can make better the use of, post office. Well, that's that for today in history. We'll now take a short breather, and when we come back, we'll take a look at the stories on the front pages of our newspaper. We have Ben Shema, the director, News, Voice of Nigeria, in the studio to give us perspectives on some of the stories. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying. Now, let's begin with the Daily Trust newspaper. The lead story, of course, if you've been on the streets of Abuja or Lagos, anywhere you are in the country, you must have heard about it. And sometimes you must have experienced it. The lead story says, motorists groan as petrol sells 600 naira for a litre in Abuja. I, for one, bought had that amount, so it's not just a speculation. The other writers says price doubled in Kano, Lagos, Port Harcourt. You'll see also scarcity may affect inflation, and that's according to the NBS. Passengers stranded, transport fares rise by 150%, 1 billion litres in stock, 2.3 billion on the way. That's according to the NNPC. The pictorial there shows you the queues and the agony that workers have to go through to get to work. If you go to the secretariat axis of the FCT, you get to see firsthand how people are struggling to get vehicles to their destination. It's not pretty at all. Now, look at the queues on the front pages there. I mean, long queues. For some, they do not even have any idea on how or when they are going to leave the filling station to go to their homes. Some who do not have the luxury or the time, well, not luxury per se, but some who do not have the time to go to the filling stations may have to abandon their cars at home. And now you see an increase in the number of passengers on the road. Also, you'd see below that, Buhari to NAS, remove your 887 billion naira projects from 2022 budget. That's according to the president. Well, I wonder how this will pan out at this time when the whole conversation about 2022 budget is almost over. At the very bottom of that, you see man sets self ablaze to protest seizure of vehicle by LASMA. How Ogun couple killed Woman sold head for 70,000 naira. Buhari confirms Bello Koko as NPA MD. And then below the nameplate there are some interesting stories as well. Aspirants, others fume as zoning threatens APC convention. Clerk defies retirement, performs duties at Senate plenary. You'd also find drug dealing. NDLEA grills Abakari and others. You'd see also the column there behind the Daily Trust newspaper is about the unseen forces behind terrorist fighters. So that's also an interesting subject you might want to pick up and have a sense of what the discussion is about, what the article is about. Well, these are some of the stories on the Daily Trust newspaper. Let's take a look at the Blueprint newspaper. And on Blueprint newspapers, the stories are not any different. Still about the scarcity of fuel. The lead story says at 700 naira per litre, Nigerians groan under biting fuel scarcity. I guess, or rather, I believe all the papers today will be carrying the story about the fuel scarcity in the country. It has the riders that says black marketers in brisk business, Abuja, Lagos worst hit. Commercial drivers brag, town commuters. It says allow us work from home, workers plead. Buhari writes NAS. He seeks 2.55 trillion naira for fuel subsidy. You'd find that on page 6. Now, if this is what we are going through as a result of this scarcity caused by dirty fuel in the first place, I can only imagine what will happen if the fuel subsidy is eventually removed. That must be a disaster, I guess. Now, look at the pictorial as well, showing you motorists. In fact, in some cases, what you see in the pictures is not even entirely, does not even entirely shows you the real picture of what is on ground. This morning, I was passing through one of the filling stations, and it was like on virtually every entry point to that filling station, there are people there, and they are not in queues. They are just scattered all around. Everyone is trying to find his way in. So I just wonder what it will happen if the gates are eventually opened. What kind of chaos are we likely to see? And whether or not even the police will be able to control, the crowd there. It's going to be crazy. And I hope that people will not be killed or injured in the process of this, because it's almost like a stampede out there. So you'll see also below that, 3 winners get car, 38 million naira prizes in Katsina talent hunt competition. At the bottom, or rather below the nameplate there, you see INEC to resolve Beavers challenges before exiting Oshun polls, and that's according to the INEC chair. Now, that's that for the Blueprint newspaper. Let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. On the Guardian, the lead story says, harder times loom as fuel crisis lingers. It has the riders that says inflation decelerates slightly to 15.6%, and then data is mockery of market reality. Food crisis not reflecting government's investment in agri, says Farmers Association. NNPC imports 2.3 billion liters as queues persist nationwide. You would also find other stories beside that. NDLEA replies police, vows to prosecute officers indicted with carry. Ex-PGF boss writes Buhari accuses Buni of planning to scuttle APC convention. Fuel scarcity, Buhari did not order query over bad fuel, says presidency. Well, he didn't, but I think that's embarrassing, because we should see heads roll as a result of this. EFCC recovers 9 filling stations, lands others from serving military officer. You'd also see 5 children abducted from their homes in Rivers. All right, now that's that for the Guardian newspaper. On the Nation newspaper this morning, The lead story says Buhari governors meeting on APC convention fails to hold. The writer says president gets list of chairman aspirants. Uzodinma Ayade party can shift convention if necessary. That's the lead story, and you wonder why the nation is deviating from the real conversation of the day about fuel scarcity. The other one at the top there, Olubadan to be craves for younger monarch in future. So I'm guessing there's a mix-up here on the story, but let's get to take a look at other papers. The Punch newspaper leads with the story of Abba Kyari's brother who received 279 million naira from Hush Puppy and others. That's according to police report. The writer says NPF probes Kyari for 33 cases of money laundering. Police recommend demotion for embattled top cop. And that's why some said, well, from a super cop to, I don't know what cop, again, to describe it, because if you were, holding such a high esteem and then all of a sudden everything is just crashing on you, it's really sad. And that there are lessons for others in this. You do not, pretend to be what you are not. Do not have double identity. It's not good because it will catch up. Olubadan designates salutes Ibadan ascendancy system promises peace. And you have also Oshobo shooting, police indict Aregbeshola's men, NSCDC assaults, cops, students demand sanctions. And then you have top military officer forfeits 10.9 billion naira property to FG, EFCC shields identity. Now these are some of the stories on the Punch newspaper this morning. At the top there, you'd see about fuel subsidy. I cannot miss that. FG states set for showdown over planned 950 billion naira FAC deductions. Well, is that to cover up for the fuel subsidy? Oh, well, you can get details of that on page 2 of the Punch. APC convention shaky. Buhari shuns governors, jets off to Belgium. And then finally, let's take a look at the Tribune newspaper this morning. It leads with a story about drug business. Kyari, 4 policemen arrested, NDLEA officials indicted. You see how he negotiated release of 25 kg cocaine, offered $61,400 cash, and that's according to agency. That's the details, of what we know so far about Abba Kyari. You find details of that on page 8 of the Tribune newspaper. At the top, the story about the APC convention, zoning consensus stall sale of forms as aspirants fume. And then you'd find PDP governors to raise panel to examine Nigeria's security. Now, these are some of the stories. And then we go to ASU warning strike. That's also another story on the Tribune. It says, NANS threatens nationwide protests, blocks federal secretariat gate. You find that on page 8. And the writer says, ASU mom on next action after 4 weeks rejects Pantami's professorship. We are not aware of impending strike. And that's according to the federal government. These are some of the stories on the front pages of our newspapers this morning. Kind of a reflection of what Nigeria looks like today. It's about fuel subsidy, it's about ASU strike, it's about APC convention, it's about fuel subsidy, and a whole lot more. Let's get perspectives on this. We have in the studio Ben Shemang. He is the Director News, Voice of Nigeria, to get perspectives. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak.
Thank you very much. My pleasure, as usual.
To begin with, on a more personal note, I'm wondering how you were able to even get here, this morning.
Honestly,
and how you've been managing all along, for the past weeks.
I just got some luck on Sunday. I was lamenting to a friend how I would get fuel. And he just put a call to somebody, and the person said, go to so filling station, go to the exit gate, and just tell them I said they should allow you in. And that was how I was able to get full tank on Sunday, you know. But that does not mean it is the standard. I am not happy that I had to get it through some crooked ways. No, that shouldn't be. I ought to have got my fuel, drive in,
Freely.
and I get an attendant who attends to me and I pay.
I mean, and not many people have such,
Exactly,
relationships.
and that's
that
why
they could
it's not as if
leverage
I'm
on.
clapping for myself. No, it shouldn't be at all. It should not.
Truly.
You know.
Well, we'll talk more. Let's take a quick break now, and then when we come back, we'll look at the details, of some of the things happening today. Please stay with us. All right, thank you for staying. This is Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital. Now, while we were at this, someone creeped in. My co-pilot.
I didn't creep in.
She has her own version of the story to tell
Ayuba,
on how to get to this place.
It's not funny at all. It wasn't funny at all. I mean, the number of queues, you know, in fact, the cars blocking the roads, because when I even got out of the house, you know, we're following a particular route and we had to reroute because, you know, there are so many queues that, you know, they ended up blocking the roads. It wasn't funny at all. It was not.
And I mean, if you look at the way the filling stations are, you know, it doesn't seem like there's some kind of coordination.
There isn't. And, you know, a lot of people actually complained that they prefer selling to black marketers. Yes, they sell more to black marketers than, you know, those motorists that are queuing, you know, and even some of them, they're even lucky or happy enough to get, you know, half a tank or even quarter of a tank.
Wow.
It gets to your turn and they tell you there's no fuel just because they don't want to sell, even though the government has told them to work 24 hours. Nothing. Like the driver that actually brought me kept complaining that he had to stay. Some people end up sleeping there. They stay overnight.
Yes.
That's how bad it is.
Wow. Well, we hope that we get over this as soon as possible. We'll be bringing you updates on the spot as we continue the show today, just to have a sense of what is out there. Well, let's proceed with your thoughts, you know, on all of this. You have given your own version, you know, of the story about the impact of this, you know. But, you know, I'm also concerned about another group of people. Workers are not having it funny these days, especially for those who are not mobile. In fact, even those with mobility now are forced. Some are forced to just leave their vehicles at home just to get to work and all of that. Should we consider some other options to maybe, you know, lessen the difficulties? Maybe you should declare some kind of work at home policy for some days or some weeks or some sort.
And that's where, talking of options, the railways ought to be working in Abuja. Honestly, they ought to. We ought to see the turnaround maintenance being a kind of 24-hour kind of work going on, rather than open the filling stations 24 hours. That is still a temporary measure. Why can't we just stop this forever? And stopping this forever means making all the 4 refineries to work. We cannot
like
keep on importing, and when you import, you're talking about a very high cost, and now we're talking of polluted ones that will have to be drained, and you now put in new ones, and that takes time, and of course, as we say in news, the effects.
What's even the assurance of, you know, evacuating the polluted, the adulterated fuel? Because from what we are hearing also, some of the petroleum marketers have raised concern that it's not just enough to even say we want to evacuate. You know, evacuating itself is a huge task. So some of them have resorted to even mixing, you know, some of the fuel. Some are even selling it already because I don't know if you've observed, a lot of commuters by the roadside or a lot of cars broken down by the roadside. I counted a lot of them, you know, along the express and some other parts of the city because of bad fuel. Some of them, you have stories about fuel injectors developing problems because it's a bad fuel. So
absolutely.
What's even the guarantee that we have evacuated this?
Honestly, there's even the fear at the aviation circle too. If it happens, for a car, yes, you can roll to a stop. What about an aeroplane? I hope it doesn't reach there. Jet A1, no, it should not. We shouldn't think of that. But why is it that if you also look at it, it's easy for hawkers to have this fuel, sell at the roadside, compared with people who indeed are legally queuing. You don't get it. Now, these guys, it's like they have the hawkers, it's like they've even formed a kind of an association. 10 liters, they tell you is 4,000 naira, and they are not going down. Reduce this. They tell you, look, if I reduce this, what I'm supposed to return to the person who gave me in the filling station and my own gain, I will not realize, I will not make my money.
Some were even selling 600 yesterday.
Exactly. Now, by the time you look at that, they say, even security, it's an allegation anyway, that even security agencies have those who are supposed to monitor also have a hand in this. I think it should, let me just put it this way, should be an allegation. Because why should we just be, bringing pains, unbearable pains on ourselves this way? It doesn't augur well at all. And talking of consequences, of course, you can see work will not go on smoothly. You can imagine the general hospitals. You can imagine even private hospitals. You are rushing, an ambulance is rushing some people to hospital, or they are going to evacuate some people. God forbid there's an emergency. What happens? Then you're talking about the markets. Of course, any person who goes to buy at a higher rate and transports at a higher rate, of course the cost will be sent on to the customer.
Even in Kaduna, someone told me that a gallon that's like 4 liters of fuel, is sold for about 3,000 naira. And while I was coming to work today, I saw a lot of people walking because they got tired of standing, waiting for, transportation, people on suits. So after walking to work, how do you expect them to actually give their best?
And
Yes.
you even see these hawkers, they sell according to the kind of car and the person who is in it. They look at your face and they give you a price. Take it or leave it. And this is where we ought to have this price control. We need people who indeed should face this kind of crisis. Let there be a task force. If it implies arresting some people, arrest them. If you're talking of Abba Kyari, who is facing whatever, and we're now saying some people in a filling station will now prefer to sell to black marketers. And these black marketers will determine their own price.
Because it's the way the black marketers even operate right now, there's nothing to put fear in them. There's nothing to say, because for most of them, they sell it around the filling stations.
Exactly.
So they buy from the same filling station, and they hover around there, and they sell them. Nobody arrests them. Nobody is saying, hey, why are you doing this? Nobody is doing that.
And once it finishes, they easily get more.
Exactly, because there is always what they call my own share within the filling station.
Now
They go there with big jerrycan, 50 liters, buy as many as possible. Just check around the gutter. That's where they now turn them into smaller gallons and up to 20 liters, 25 liters, and they sell. People get from there. But they are adulterated, and that's why you're seeing these cars breaking down along the roads here and there. And many people, again, will have to go to the mechanics, either to take care of your injectors, take care of your engine. Look, everyone is just at a loss.
And if you think about, those who make a living from this, for instance, commercial operators of vehicles, they make it, that's where they get their income. And it's daily. They have to do this daily. Otherwise, for some of them who are having the cars on hire purchase, or someone bought the car and give it to them, how do they, remit?
But you see, doing that at a high risk, buying bad fuel and knocking your engine, and you are unable to live up to the terms of contract is another thing. And there is this idiomatic expression, fishing in troubled waters. It's only when there are some problems here and there that some people smile to the banks. Those who are doing this kind of businesses as a man, we made it, and they are looking forward to this kind of a thing. We are looking for men and women of conscience in Nigeria to stop it. Stop it as in stop it. We ought to see the National Assembly condemning this, calling on authorities, and the authorities will react by, this is what we call emergency. It's an emergency, honestly. We set up a task force. People should sweep into that place and go in there with action, arrest whoever is just feeling is above the law. Nobody is above the law in this matter. No, we cannot make Nigeria ungovernable just because some people feel they should do the wrong thing. No.
Okay, now considering that the masses are actually at the receiving end and, it's due to no fault of theirs, don't you think the DPR should, force these filling stations to actually sell to us at a lower price?
Well, you see, that is where we come in when it comes to privatization, commercialization. If you force them to sell at lower price, at what point, what was the price of import when they imported. By the time they import and they now want to make it Father Christmas, even Father Christmas, you must have paid at the gate before you probably pose for a photograph with him. And so if they bought it higher, they can't be selling it cheaper here. If therefore, to remove this subsidy will solve the Nigerian problem, we solve it for once and for all. Because if you look at when this scarcity started and you count the ones that have taken place either during this government or the previous ones, the losses are enormous. And so if you count them and the cost of removing the subsidy, will the industries work? I think we make it work. Therefore, if it's going to work, let us remove the subsidy. I feel so, honestly.
All right.
I feel so.
Now we are getting, information from the presidency. The president did not order a query over bad fail. Should we be happy about this?
I think a thing of this nature, if I were the president's spokesman, I will ensure that this statement does not come out. If initially they said the president has ordered a probe or has given queries to some people who should know the best, who ought to have done the ideal, let it be, even if they never said so. But if you're now countering all of this, I think that in terms of conflict communication management or crisis in communication, I think this shouldn't be. They ought not to have brought this kind of a statement. Just leave it as it is. When you have a lion that is asleep and it's not even there in the den again, people knew that there was a lion or there is a lion. By the time they pass in, they are already scared. And so, if the government would always take action, of course people will fear. But when you did or you didn't do, and you are bringing in a statement to counter it that you never queried these people, it's like saying, well, business can go on as usual. And so, people who thought that the government would sanction are now believing that, oh, it's after all, it didn't happen. So I think in terms of managing the information, this statement ought not to have come out.
Okay, earlier on you talked about refineries. Now, some people seem to be of the opinion that instead of, closing down illegal refineries, that they should, the government should register them and make them legal in a bid to, meet the needs of the Nigerian people. What do you think about that?
Yeah, you see, if you've been to Niger Delta areas, in particular, River State, Akwa Ibom, there is this thing called soot. Look, it's like dark cloud hovering around. You see roofs of houses being punctured. People are inhaling all of these things. Health hazard. Within the next few years, I hope it won't be, cases of cancer could be serious, because when government was thinking of having what is called modular refineries, there were supposed to be refineries that could just refine maybe some hundreds of thousands of crude in a day. But evildoers went into illegal refining, and you could see thick smoke all over Port Harcourt. The wind carries all of that, and at a point it even affects aviation. Aeroplanes will not land, they won't take off because of all of this. So if you're going to regulate that, yes, let it be that it is done the ideal way. If you say, yes, people can do operations on humans, does that mean you should go and bring razor blades and knives to begin to cut people? No, that's exactly what the evildoers are doing when it comes to illegal refining. There was a committee set up by the office of the VP, and it had to do with these refineries. Make sure that since these big ones, we are incapable for now of making them work. Let us have the modular refineries. They are smaller. They are just like a kind of an agency. They can provide quick services. At that point, individuals were called upon, get your license. Get connected with crude suppliers, and you'll find people who consume at home, and instead of this importation. And so, yes, it is good for us to have modular refineries, but it is bad and very bad indeed to allow the evildoers. If you go to the creeks, you see what has been done to the vegetation there. The crops the aquatics are gone. See the mangrove, the plants are also going. You could see sludge here and there. So that doesn't augur well for agriculture. Even the fish we eat. People who indeed do not have potable water, you want to sing a borehole, you have this the smell of petrol in it. And so it's a big problem, and we have to manage that. And that's why government went into this organic cleanup exercise that some people say, yes, it is going on. But we say, no, it is going on, but the pace and speed in which it's going is so small.
All right, now let's take a look at other stories. Another story on the front pages this morning is about the Abba Kyari's arrests. There seemed to be this, back and forth of bickering between the NDLA and the Nigerian police. Is this about to set us into another session, or I'll say another period of rivalry between government agencies?
Honestly, a crime has been committed. A crime has been committed. We should not be looking at which agency is superior in this matter. Abba Kyari was a super cop that people were saying one day we'll have an ideal IG. But you see, I will not be judgmental, but there's the saying that not all that glitters is gold. Abba Kyari appears to be falling from the zenith up there, very down to the rock bottom. It's not the best. Now, when the police and the NDLA are involved in mudslinging over this matter, it's not the best. There was a time they were matched together, NDLA and the police. NDLA, road safety corps. You could see that they didn't work very well, at the expense of criminality. We begin to fight as to who is superior. It shouldn't just be once you catch criminals, catch the criminals. If this is your job, do it. It does not matter how you do it, but are you in control of the situation? That is just what Nigerians are looking out for.
But do you consider as surprising the fact that a top-level police officer like Abba Kyari will be engaged or will be involved with such, practices and in the service, and there's no any, report or any information about his engagement with this, drug dealing, at any point?
Yeah, you see, in criminality, even spy job, moonlighting, and you also have what you call the smooth operator. You don't leave traces around. It's only when the chips are down, sometimes when you're sharing loot, and so person did not get what was promised, that is where leakages begin to come to happen. They all are happening here and there, but it's the person that is caught that is known. And there are some people who indeed who occupy high positions, but because you have not caught them, therefore they are innocent. Abba is just one of them. He is now being caught, and of course he has to face the full scale of the law. His connections with many celebrities, and you could also see the way he was going, running in the social media, his own Facebook, followers in millions. It was like he would leave the police force to join politics. In terms of security, I think
Again, another thing. Yes, and another thing is that the FBI fingered Abakari in one of its reports, when Hush Puppy was arrested. Hush Puppy was using something that looked like a smoke screen. He always, position himself or portray himself as this businessman who is doing very well and the likes. But at the end of the day, investigations revealed that this was this. And when the report, by the FBI came out, I think that there was some kind of reluctance to take that report seriously. Because if that was done early enough, maybe it would have pointed to something. So what does that say about, our collaboration with other agencies and other forces? There are instances where reports will be given, by maybe an international organization of some sort, and then locally we tend to have sometimes a negative response to it, always with the thinking that, oh, they are just trying to destabilize the country, they are just trying to do this and that. So how about, these collaborations? Have they helped?
Yeah, they've helped. The only thing is that back home, like you said, there are some people who engage in this laissez-faire attitude. It no concern me. No, the guy in question is my personal person. Therefore, I will not destroy my family relationship. I will not destroy this. We belong to the same club. I will not destroy this because we are members of the same alumni. No, we won't do that. But I tell you that the cooperation has been good, and that was why, if you look at from the Middle East, America, Germany, you could see that they've been able to bring out some collaborators back home in their home countries who indeed help to destroy or give their countries bad image as to deals in Nigeria here. Remember issues dealing with electricity. Remember issues dealing with this German electricity company in Nigeria. So remember those who are sponsors of Boko Haram, they all were revealed from the United Arab Emirates, and they said these are the people, and some were fingered to be members of this, allegedly fingered to be members of the these Bureau de Change organizers. So it's nice to have these collaborations, and that's why if you check the case of former governor of Bayelsa State, Alama Singer, after how many charges in Nigeria, 100 and something, in the end they said he was free, that the EFCC could not bring good grounds to effect prosecution.
Again, that's another problem to the whole conversation.
But
it's not just about arrest.
When he went to London, of course, just one count, they caught the man.
Yes, and again, that brings to the issue of the judiciary about whether or not it can actually deliver justice in this sense. So it's not just the arrest. After the arrest, there's a whole lot of legal battle that needs to go on, and whether or not we are equipped enough to ensure that we follow through with the issues till the very end in terms of ensuring prosecution of these persons. Because like the sponsors of terrorists that you talked about, a good number of them have not been, their trial is yet to commence in the courts. So again, the issue of slow pace, and which is one of the reasons why some are also alleging that this is all a smokescreen about the Abakari's arrest in Nigeria, that it's all staged so that the issue of extraditing him to the United States to face, trial there will be averted. That's some of the speculations. I mean, some of the, speculations I've heard, and all of that. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, you see, many Nigerians have always been calling for specialized courts to try some cases. Just like election cases, you cannot go to the magistrate's court. No, there is a panel or election tribunal to handle all of that. If we therefore can have all of that, why don't we also have specialized courts to deal with cases that will come from ICPC or EFCC, and that will make it better. And therefore, cases too must always have a lifespan. Look, do adjudications for a period of 6 months, highest 1 year. You just have it done that way. Look at the case that happened with the Lagos landlords. And how many years since the days of Bolahon? How many people still remember that there was once a naval officer who was Bolahon as governor of Lagos State, who took over a certain portion of land under what they call public interest policy, and felt they will give the owners of the land that another place. They never did. Not until last year that the judgment was effected. So you can see that if we don't have specialized courts to handle specialized cases such as this, of course we're going to have these long delayed cases here and there, and you also have too many cases with few judges, few courts to handle them. So there has to be more recruitments, train people here and there, so that cases are dispensed with as fast as possible. There is this Latin maxim, it's a legal thing. They say justice delayed is justice denied. You keep on handling some cases till, the complainants die. And when they die, the case is gone. Those accused are jubilating. And so let us have specialized courts, and I'm sure some of these delays will be a thing of the past. And those who grant all sorts of injunctions, perpetual injunction, you say you cannot prosecute this, I therefore grant an injunction, and some courts fail to vacate such injunctions. That tells you we'll have a long way to go when it comes to service delivery in terms of judiciary, in terms of cases in courts.
Okay, now rather than, recommending probably his sack or, something similar, you have the police recommending a demotion for Abba Kyari. Is that actually a solution? And that means he will still be in service?
Honestly, it beats my imagination that a case of this magnitude, what has happened to people who are not in government, who indeed are caught with cocaine, what do you reduce them to? You remove them from society by putting them in prison. Now you have somebody, 25 kilograms is half a bag of cement. And you can imagine what that entails. That volume, that quantity. How many people will it destroy in society? Children sniff this thing in schools, in universities, workers do. And we now say, no, let's reduce the man, just reduce his rank, and business goes on. Okay, with time, the man grows again and comes up to occupy, big position. So where is deterrent in law? Where is shame in society? When you say name and shame, this is where it's supposed to be. There are times, those days when they said, that armed robber came from so family, and at the point of execution, they were taken and tied to a stake in the community where they originate, so that it serves as a deterrent to people in the society. The family becomes, it's a shame that it has happened. So when these things happen, it's a kind of a control mechanism. But when you now say, no, having committed this thing, no, he's a gentleman, yes, he has done this, but he has done an infraction. He has offended the law. So he has to the same law. He has to be put on the scale where every other person who commits similar offense is put. And that's why Nigeria has always been a transit point. People are now using it to transit. Gradually, we are saying that the country is also becoming a consuming nation. If people will make a fish roll and begin to sprinkle cocaine or heroin or hard drugs on top, and they are selling to children. People have been caught pants down in this kind of deals. So that tells you there is danger. You go to villages and you see what people are drinking, concoctions. I hear all sorts of names. even names of football clubs, and you hear terrible ones, kill me quick, you know, Gosqualo. What are these?
appalling.
I mean, we ought to also see local governments bringing in their bylaws, residual laws, to take care of us.
And all of this have
drinking.
implication on the general sanity of the society.
Exactly. Because when you can't control the children here and there, politics is coming, they will recruit them, give them some of these things, and they drink. The winners will always, when they say, come and take your certificate of return, it's then they bring their children well dressed from foreign countries and chauffeur driven. They go to INEC to receive certificates. Those who are sleeping in the streets, burning houses, causing arson, OG, making society not to sleep, they are left behind. You know.
Okay.
Now,
All right. Now.
okay.
All right. Let's move on to. Do you still have a question on?
Not exactly.
Okay.
Just,
I wanted you to, share your thoughts on the ASU strike. It's one too many.
You have said my mind. One too many. And honestly, it doesn't augur well. A student applied for masters. They said, bring your manuscript. And when they brought the kind of class of degree and all that, I said, look, but your year of graduation, you ought to have graduated within 5 years, but you've ended up spending 7, 8 years. And you have this kind of class of degree. So what were you doing? And that's why sometimes you see some of our students, they face some professional courses abroad. So there has to be teacher quality, there has to be curriculum quality, there has to be student quality. And so when constantly we're talking of strike here and there to make up points because we need our payment, yes, they should be paid if they work for it, but the strikes are becoming just too many. And a situation where doctors too will also go on strike. I mean, having vowed that yours is to protect God and human beings, you are like the gods on earth when you are a doctor. And doctors also come via the lecturers. And so lecturers, honestly, let's have some pity on this country called Nigeria and our citizens.
okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on Daybreak this morning and sharing your perspective with us on these stories. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yes. We've been speaking with Ben Shemang. He is the Director of News Voice of Nigeria, giving us perspectives on the stories on the front pages of our newspapers. We'll take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at other discussions on the program. Please stay with us.
All right, welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on Trust TV. We'll move on to our first discussion, and it has to do with Zamfara State politics. After taking over Zamfara State APC structure, Governor Matawale seems to have put the crisis in APC behind him and stoked a new battle with his deputy, who some have actually said, his only sin was divorcing himself from the defection to APC on grounds of principles. Now, many people in Zamfara State see the ongoing impeachment processes against Muhammad Aliyu as a prelude to the expected contentious 2023 governorship poll, which could set up a clash between governor and his estranged deputy. Now, joining us today, we have Dr. Mikhail Ibrahim Barrow, and he's a lecturer. He joins us virtually from Sokoto.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us on Daybreak this morning, Dr. Mikhail Ibrahim.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, generally, let's begin with an overview of the politics in Zamfara State. The opposition in Zamfara State, the PDP in particular, have raised concerns over time, about the ruling party in the state sort of, strangling, the opposition party. Of course, this is, contrary to democratic principles and practice. What are your thoughts on the general politics in the state?
All right. Again, good morning to you and to our viewers generally. Well, for Zamfara State, as you know, from 2019 election to date, it has been really a period of political upheaval generally. This is a state in which APC as a party won almost all the seats from governor down. And then because of the internal wrangling in the party, the issue was challenged in the court of law, and all the winners lost, and the present governor and his team were given the post. Then he was in PDP, and he made promises that he would remain forever in PDP. And for reasons, of course, best known to him, he migrated to APC, which is the party I belong. So one thing I picked from the introduction is the word the governor has taken over APC as a party, which in itself is contentious. What we know in Zamfara State is that APC has three main factions. The governor, Bello Mutawale, led faction, and then the distinguished Senator Kabir Marafa led faction, which actually I'm loyal to, and then the former governor Abdulaziz Yari faction, which are all having their basis for emerging as factions of the party. And then now the issue with the deputy governor, who remains in PDP and who is a problem to the government and is the issue of the moment. So this is the overall situation. Here is a ruling party that is divided into three factions, and all of them are really strong in their presence. And then the PDP, which has a deputy governor and a former party of the governor, which is also in court, challenging the legitimacy of Governor Mutawale to continue to be the governor, on the basis of which the Supreme Court ruling made him the governor. So this is the scenario. And of course, we know that Senator Ahmed Sani Yarim Bakura is now behind all the political moves by Governor Mutawale. So Zamfara from 2019 to date has suffered from this political instability, which also has implications to its economic and social development. I believe strongly that the worsening situation of banditry has to do with the instability and the kind of crack that exists within the ruling class of the state.
Fact that the sitting governor have actually taken over the APC, isn't that the problem? I mean, even the caretaker committee chair, the governor of Yobe State, Buni, has said that the governor is the leader of the party. The moment he decamped to the APC, he was made automatically the leader of the party. I believe that that's part of the reasons why we are now having all of these factions, isn't it? So it will be right to say that he has actually taken over the party, isn't it?
Well, actually, you must have observed that I'm really smiling. For us, the legality of the governor, emerging as the leader of the party, emerges even from the question we have on the legality of the Memala Buni Caretaker Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee. In our view, from Senator Marafa's faction of APC, the committee led by Maimala is illegal, and all the actions taken by that committee are as illegal as it stands. And our starting point for that argument is the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended in 1999. Section 223 of the Constitution speaks about what it takes to constitute the national leadership of the party. And Section A of it reads, the Constitution and rules of a political party shall provide for the periodical election on a democratic basis of the principal officers and members of the executive committee or other governing body of the political party. This is the provision of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And the Constitution of APC also recognizes this. Article 20 of the APC Constitution talk about democratic composition of the national leadership of the party. So, Maimala Committee, we really don't know how they source their legitimacy and are challenging, right now we are in court, challenging the legality of the Maimala lead committee and, of course, all the action they have taken, particularly in Zamfara State. So his statement actually cannot stand for us until the court decides on that.
All right, now we'll take a quick break. Please just hang on. We'll take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll look at other issues and get other perspectives as well from the PDP Deputy Chairman from Zamfara State, Professor Kabir Jabaka, and he'll be joining us. Please stay with us.
Hello, and welcome to Trust TV News Updates.
I'm Zainab Bala. For more news, follow us across all our social media platforms.
The nightmare that most of these Pipe residents have dreaded for many years is finally happening.
The place is a skeleton of itself, a place that was once busy with patients trooping in and out.
I'm standing right now. I'm standing on top of the Maloney Hill in the ancient city of Kefi.
Cooperation. I know communities where they are contributing to buy locally manufactured guns to defend themselves.
Being a Nigerian entrepreneur, and I am going to be taking you on a journey to show you the beautiful, the motivational and resilient nature of Nigerian entrepreneurs.
Behind me is the Arewa Textile Mill, established in 1963 and eventually closed down in 2004.
We are still going into some other hideouts to see if any apprehensions will be made tonight.
Let's travel down to Shekau, a community in Yobe State, to talk to Shekau's mother on what she thinks about this development.
Well, even to be a magistrate is a funny thing.
Yes. Have things changed? Is there more corruption now in the judiciary? What can we do about it?
Well, this is one of the internally displaced camps here in Gusau, the Zamfara State's capital.
All right, thank you for staying. You're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital. Now, we now have in the studio APC chieftain, loyal to the governor of Zamfara State, Sani Abdullahi Shinkafi. He will also be giving us his own perspectives on the politics in the state there. Now, before you came in, we were talking to Dr. Mikhail Ibrahim Barau, who is a lecturer from Sokoto. He is also, talking about the Maimalabuni caretaker committee as being illegal, and that it is not a committee or it's not a committee that they are going to take seriously whatever they are saying. So in this instance, we are talking about the legitimacy of the committee by conferring, that leadership position on the governor of Zamfara State, as leader of the party, which is why some of these factions now exist. So they are saying that they do not accept the taking over of the party by the governor. What's your own thoughts about this?
Well, the legitimacy of Malabuni caretaker committee was driving from the power vested on him by the National Executive Committee of the party. Each and every political party in Nigeria has its own internal mechanism, how it regulates its day-to-day affairs. So legitimacy of Malabuni being the caretaker committee of the party was mandated by the National Executive Committee of the party. So the constitution of APC or in some political party gave rooms on how you regulate the internal mechanism of the political party. So somebody who is not a member of NEC, somebody who is not also mandated by the constitution cannot decide on the party. So the power vested on the leadership of Malabuni as caretaker committee by National Executive Committee of the party. Maybe some people who happens to be talking about political party are not too conversant with the constitution of the political parties. In political parties, we have about 3 organs of the party that can take decision on behalf of the party. We have National Executive Committee of the party. We have National Working Committee of the party. The National Working Committee of the party are mandated by the constitution to look into day-to-day affairs of the party. Well, the National Executive Committee of a political party also act on behalf of the National Working Committee, and all decisions taken by the National Working Committee of the party are to be taken to the National Executive Committee for ratification. It's one of the decision-making body of the party. Then the National Convention is the highest decision-making body of the party. So if the National Executive Committee mandated Malabuni to take day-to-day affairs of the party on behalf of the party, I think they have the legitimate power to act on behalf of the party. So on the issue of the governor Matola Maradun being a leader of the party in the state, it is not something new in Nigeria. If you look at, we have 21 governors sitting in 21 states. We have also PDP has their governors. Abga has a governor in Anambra State. In any state, the state governor is a leader of the party in that state. But being a leader of the party in state is not something which is written in the constitution of a political party.
So don't you think
it's
that that's
a little bit like ceremonial?
Yeah, so don't you think that that's part of the problem here? Because some of these members who have been in the APC, are now aggrieved, and they feel like someone is just joining the party, and then all of a sudden you are conferring on him that role of a leader of the party, which means that he called the shots, and that's why they are aggrieved.
That is why I'm telling you the ignorance of the party constitution. There is no any provision of state leader in any constitution of a political party in Nigeria.
But the governors are operating by that.
I'm telling you, it's a ceremonial position. It's a ceremonial position. If you read a page from page 1 to page 2, or article 1 to article Z of APC constitution, you cannot find an article or in any segment of the constitution where a power has been compared to anybody as a leader of the state.
But it does that give the person some kind of influence on the party?
In a political party, as I have said, there is state working committee, national working committee, local government working committee, and ward working committee. In all these things, the schedules and the function of all organs of the party are clearly spelled out in that constitution.
All right, let's connect. Let's connect to Dr. Mikhail Ibrahim. Let's get his own thinking around this. If you are there, Dr. Mikhail, I believe you have heard our guest in the studio, Sani Abdullahi, talking about the ceremonial status of the leader of the APC in Zamfara State, meaning to say that there is no cause for alarm here, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. I think I like the fair submission from Mr. Shinkafi, who I'm pleased to join in this conversation. First of all, he was talking about thinking, saying that he thinks that the NIC had the powers to enable the Maimala committee, and thinking remains what it is until confirmed by relevant laws and authorities. And then, of course, the issue of ceremonial. Yes, what is ceremonial is really what it is, and that it is subject to popular acceptance. And in the case of Zamfara, Governor Matawalle was not really lucky to have that. So when we talk about a leadership, it can be from legal point of view, that one has the legal backing to decide to lead people. And it has the moral point of view, that somebody has generated a certain moral disposition that people passively have accepted him as a leader, and that is not contested by anyone. And the problem with the moral disposition is that when it is contested, then we have to go to the legal level of it. And that is the situation with Governor Matawalle. He came into APC and he met really critical party members, including the immediate past governor. And the whole party structure he is leading was made by a mere announcement on the podium by Governor Maimala. And we think even where you have a substantive party national chair, he cannot come on the podium and announce the dissolution of another existing party structure. It has to follow certain processes, a meeting, resolutions, minutes, and stuff like that, which did not exist in this situation. Well, our situation in Zamfara is actually good and bad at the same time. Zamfara has become now the testing ground for Nigerian laws and constitution generally. You know the circumstances that brought Matawalle as a governor in the state. People were thinking that that should not happen. But just 4 days to the swearing in of the elected officials, the court ruled and Matawalle emerged as the governor. And that goes back to the issue of party primaries. So Nigeria and Zamfara have learned that lesson. And we are here again, actually, challenging whatever Maimala does and challenging the legitimacy of Governor Matawalle as the leader of the party. And I'm happy Mr. Abdullahi Shinkafi actually talk about it being ceremonial, and it is what it is, ceremonial, and that we do not accept and we do not endorse as party members. And so our other party stalwarts like Senator Marafa, like Abubakar, which are all critical stakeholders of the party. So I think the submission is clear, and that is being contested.
Well, well, there you have it. Now, you heard all that. You know, what I would like to ask is that, do you believe that, you know, Governor Matawalle has the moral standing, you know, to take that ceremonial position of being the leader of the party, like he is, he's challenging?
You see, sometimes if politicians are talking, I just laugh. It's too funny. You see, traditionally, in this sort of Nigerian politics, wherever a ruling party is governing a state, the governor automatically assumed to be the leader of the party in that state. But there's a functional state executives.
Yes, but in this instance,
the
governor is coming from the PDP. He won the election. He became governor based on the platform that he was on. He was on the PDP.
There is no any
and that was how he
There is no any constitutional impediment that barred him from exercising his fundamental human right of association in line with the provisions of the Nigerian Constitution. So when that judgment was delivered on 24th May 2019, there is no any clause or any segment of the judgment why it changed the governor for not moving to any political party. He has freedom of association as enshrined in the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended. So he has the right to defect to any political party he so wishes. So the issue of moral status does not exist. We are talking of the legality. Yeah. When you are talking of legality, then it supersedes anything you can call off, or moral status or immorality. But we are talking of the legality. The Constitution of Nigeria gave him the mandate to defect to any political party he so wishes. So for him being defected to APC, he still remain the governor of the state. And he still remain also a member of APC. Let me refresh your memory that if you join a party today, the person who joined a party for the first 8 years or 20 years, he remains a member of a political party and he has equal rights and privileges. So for somebody to say that he met some critical stakeholders, governor has did a favor for to join APC. Because, yes, he did a favor. Because when you don't have nothing, you can't build something on nothing. The time when the governor was declared by PDP, after all the board casted on behalf of APC were wasted board by the Supreme Court of Nigeria. And the governor decided to defect when they have nothing from the governor, National Assembly, House Assembly, 0.
Now, are you concerned about...
1 minus 1 is equal to 0.
Okay, now...
And you will now have another plus 1, and you are quarreling.
Now, are you concerned about the division in the party and how it is going to have an implication on the strength of the party in the post-coming elections?
Let me tell you, I'm one of the critical stakeholders in Zamfara and also Nigerian politics. So for anybody to be telling me while you are staying in your comfort zone in Abuja or in Kaduna or in Sokoto, saying that the party is not firmly on ground, you are not conversant with Zamfara politics. The politics of Zamfara, who is who matters in Zamfara politics, are with the governor. Okay. So for anybody to say the party, let me tell you, the issue of factionalization in Zamfara has come and gone. And the subsisting Federal High Court judgment will show division. That burdened all their claims on the leadership. So as far as I'm concerned, nothing mega.
Okay, so I'm actually quite interested in the role between the governor and his deputy. Some people actually seem to think the reason behind the acrimony between them is the fact that, you know, the deputy refused to defect to the APC. Is this true? And if yes, shouldn't, you know, both parties, you know, put their differences aside for the good of the common man?
Well, the issue of the differences between the governor and the deputy governor is not new in Nigerian politics, where the governor will defect and the deputy will refuse to defect. It happens in many states. It happens in Lagos State. It happens in Anambra State. Recently, it happens in Sokoto State. Aliyu Magataka Doamoko and Baparawa, and Aminu Waziri and Ahmed Aliyu. It happens everywhere. So it depends on the interests of politics in that state. If the governor, if the deputy governor refuses to defect, he's exercising his constitutional right to stay where he belongs to. And it's a joint ticket. And whether the governor stay in APC and the deputy stay in PDP does not invalidate their mandate. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm not holding belief for either deputy governor or the governor all of them are entitled to their opinions, and it's left for them to resolve their differences.
All right, let's bring in Dr. Ibrahim Barrow here. Doctor, if you are there, let me get your own thoughts about the coming convention of the APC. We are seeing all of these factions, and we are seeing that there's a peace committee that was set up to resolve some of these differences. Are you concerned about the convention and as to the rancor that there is in Zamfara State, whether or not the committee has been able to reach out to sort out some of these grievances?
Is an issue of concern to us and to the party generally. So we know of the Senator Abdullahi Adamu's committee that was set up to reach out to aggrieved members of the party across the country. To the best of my knowledge and in discussion with Senator Marafa, who leads the faction we belong, he only received a call, which was more like a personal call from Senator Abdullah Adamu, asking about where he was and that they wanted to talk and that he would make a follow-up call, and that was not done again. So for us, the committee has not formally reached out because the expectation is that there should be official correspondence to this effect, or at least communication on this kind of reconciliation. So the concern now is when it is time for the national convention, who will be there for it? We were all witnesses. I was in Abuja when the so-called national chairman, including that of Zamfara, were presented a letter of confirmation as elected chairs. First, you need to recognize that this is perhaps the first time we are witnessing this kind of presentation of letters for confirmation at party level. This happens because, of course, when people are struggling and are looking for straws of legitimacy, they hold every here and then. So they think that presenting those letters will confer that kind of legitimacy. We saw the kind of security that was mounted at the National Secretariat because of the grievances that are all over the place. We read in the news that some 21 party members staged a protest against this existing committee and their activities. So you can imagine what happens when the convention comes up. We know that also concerns in the news around that forms for positions for the national convention have not been sold out yet. Just some few weeks to that convention. Okay, so this concern from our state and other parts of Nigeria and all these other issues are really issues of great concern for us as party members and of course for us as citizens of Nigeria.
Okay, now in any case, do you even recognize that committee, the peace committee set up, in the first place, since you're questioning the legitimacy of the Memalabuni-led caretaker committee in this instance? Do you recognize them? And would you, if they reach out, really, would you take seriously whatever it is that they are going to be putting on the table?
Yeah. So one thing is that it's one thing to make a mistake, and is another to correct it. We know in politics, as in any other social engagement, that consultation, reconciliations are natural. The most important thing is the sincerity in that. You see, all these constitutional issues that I'm talking about are like sleeping dogs that one only wakes up when there is serious violation and injustice, like the case of Zamfara. When you have people that won election under the party and lost, in spite of that also, they have maintained the party very strongly, so much that the governor who was in PDP, I felt that if he remains in PDP, certainly he could not win election, even in his own local government in 2023. So he had to do everything possible to see himself within APC. So he went through the back door and felt that he could bypass these people who have labored for the party. This is against the principle of natural justice. We know what happened. We are in a state where people need to be cared for, and these people have maintained the party. And you see the popularity of APC in every corner of the state, even before the governor joined. Now he came, and all those people were considered as irrelevant because they were not consulted in the process. So this cannot stand. But if there is fairness, if there is consultation, if there is dialogue, this is our right. We make a case to the court and we have the right of withdrawal. But then if that is not done, we continue to challenge the committee and see what happens in the court of law. So it's a balanced thing. Negotiation, reconciliation is part and parcel of a political process. And that is acceptable when proper channels are followed and when proper processes are taken. So this is the argument. We will continue with our court process, challenging the legality until relevant and acceptable negotiation and reconciliation measures are put in place.
Now, are you concerned about the issues about, consensus, zoning in the convention, given the fact that there are some of these factions across the country, not just, in your own state, in Zamfara state, and it's likely to have a consequence, on the party's strength, isn't it?
Yes, certainly so. And I think President Muhammad Buhari was really very frank in his communication to the party that until APC closes its rank and comes in-house and makes necessary reconciliation, anything can happen. I really admire the president for the clarity of his message in that interview. We have seen the opposition party, how they have really internally handled all situations. So it's really a thing of great concern for us that until these issues are addressed, APC as a ruling party is in the danger zone, actually, and only God knows what happened. And my major concern, actually, what that means to the stability and the greater interest of the country. We need viral and effective political parties that are governed by the rules of their constitution and the rule of the federal constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And it seems APC, as it is today, is in great violation of that. And for us as a faction of APC in Zamfara State, led by Senator Murafa, this is what we are doing, taking matters to court. You see, this is a country of 200 million, perhaps plus population, highly diverse. Only clear rules and respect to rule of law can ensure stability at the general country level, at party level, and all other arrangements. And we have great respect for that. And that's why in all our grievances, we go to the court and we challenge that. Just tomorrow, the court will hear our case, and we continue to follow that to the logical conclusion.
Here with us in the studio. Now, do you share the same concern, about, these factions having consequences on the convention and the decision of the party to zone or to, have some kind of consensus?
Well, to me, it is very unfortunate sometimes how politicians talk anyhow, without fear of God or without taking cognizance of the relevant segment of Nigerian constitution or the party constitution, or taking cognizance of the relevance subsisting court judgment or court order. To me, clearly, Senator Marafa faction does not even exist. Because that was a time where the President Memala Boni initiated a peace accord between Abdulaziz Yari and the members of G8, where they harmonized and embraced themselves before Matole joined APC. To my greatest surprise, from nowhere they resurfaced and start calling Senator Marafa faction. Already Senator Marafa faction had been swallowed by Abdulaziz Yari faction led by Lew M. Liman Kaura. So it is just after the Memala Boni rolled out schedule activities for congresses, they now resurface and start calling themselves faction. And the pending case, when Memala Boni came to Zamfara on 29 June 2021, where Bello Matole and I and others defected to APC, dissolved the ESCO. At that day, Leon N. Liman is the caretaker chairman of APC in Zamfara State. There was nothing like Marafa faction that existed in Zamfara State. And with the subsisting Federal High Court judgment in Zamfara State, the issue of factionalization has ceased to exist because the court delivered judgment, unanimous judgment,
yeah, but
that it declines jurisdiction
but they do
to
not
entertain in the internal mechanism of a political
But they do not
party.
seem satisfied
And
with that
there's similar judgment in Delta State, in many across the state, who have sued Memala, who are challenging the legitimacy of Memala Boni as a national caretaker chairman. So on the issue of this issue of reconciliation before convention, to me, we're in this party politics.
So you do not consider the faction to
PDP
have
was
any
in
consequence?
crisis in 2011 and it won election. It was in crisis in 2000 and it won election. In party politics, you cannot avoid agreement and disagreement. And vote in any political problem, you apply political solution. So issue of going to court to challenge the factionalization in Zamfara State, to me, it's a mere waste of time. That's an established judicial precedent. I thank God he's a lawyer by profession, the way he spoke. But they are wasting their time, they are wasting their resources. There's an established judicial precedent on the case of Rotimi Amechi and Magnus Abe, and in the case of Soludo and Honorable Chukuma Omoji last year. So the issue of party supremacy and the issue of internal party mechanism supersede an individual interest. So
okay,
for him to say that Matole cannot win election, it's just a mere political statement.
Let's allow
there was
Dr.
an election
Ibrahim
in Bakura State, by-election in Bakura State, and Matole was in PDP. And when he was in PDP, and he defeated APC.
All right, let's allow Dr. Ibrahim.
It's a case study for
Dr. Ibrahim Barrow to give us his own concluding thoughts. You want to respond to this?
All right. What I will say is that for the existence of Marafa faction, in February 2021, when the reconciliation started between Senator Marafa and Abdulaziz Yari and other G8 members, I was the secretary of the Marafa group, and I came to Kaduna before well over 1,000 in a well-publicized and covered event to read the terms of our engagement with the Yari faction. And one of the statements there is in the papers, is that we will maintain the two groups while accepting Yari to lead, until we see that things are aligned naturally. And that was the last formal engagement between us and the Yari group. And we continued with a very good relationship. So the records are there on that. And on that basis, the case of our existence as a faction led by Marafa can only be changed by the court of law. Secondly, whether we make peace within the party or we go to the court, I recognize political solution. And of course, I made a lot of statements, even in this engagement around that. But political solution exists only where there.
Well, it appears that we have some network hitch there. Well, we'll just go on and take the concluding thoughts of our guest here in the studio, Sani Abdullahi. What are your own final thoughts, on this conversation?
Well, my own final touch on the issue of national convention the party will go to National Convention united. And if you look at the schedule of activities of the National Convention, the many aspirants came on board to aspire for the position of the National Working Committee, which is the party is yet to start sales of the nomination form. But all the preparation are on top gear, and the party will come out strong. Those who are thinking that because of the here and there people are aggrieved, you cannot avoid all this thing in politics. People must feel aggrieved, but you have to reconcile, harmonize, and work as a family. So on the issue of anybody who is wishing this country well and wishing APC well, he has to demonstrate sense of nationalism and patriotism in seeing how the president will succeed and hand over to a very successful civilian administration in 2023. The President Muhammadu Buhari is not only a president of APC, he's a president of all political parties. And is all president of all the governors in the statistical state of the Federation. So I am calling on all the APC members nationwide to remain calm, law-abiding, and also on the issue of what people are talking of consensus, zoning, and the rest. Consensus and the zoning is alien to Nigerian Constitution, 1999, as amended.
Well, that has been a practice in the country.
I'm telling you,
we've always adopted.
When you are talking of zoning, some people are saying southern president, northern president. It's alien to Nigerian Constitution.
It's alien to the Constitution, but that has been a practice in our politics.
Well, yes, it's a practice, but it's alien. But when you had something alien, it means it's illegal. You understand? So what I'm trying to say, if the party, either APC or PDP, decided to come by consensus, that is their own decision. It is their internal mechanism. Each and every political party has their internal mechanism to handle things. If the party decided to yet stick on the internal democracy and say this is who and who we agree to become national chairman by consensus, if you are a good party man, then you have to accept the party supremacy.
Okay, so you're contesting for APC national chairman.
Yes, it's not in doubt.
All right, so what are you bringing to the table? How do you intend to harmonize the party?
Well, if you look at most of the aspirants, some of them are former governors. Some of them are only tested but not trusted. Some of them may know how to govern people or the resources in their state, but they lack the knowledge in the party administration. I have the administrative experience, the managerial capacity. I'm qualified eminently to lead the party, APC, because I have been a national secretary of a political party, ABGA, and I've been a secretary board of trustee of ABGA. And I have been in the civil service. I have been in the private sector. I have a wide range of experience in how to turn around the management of the party. So what I have on the table, I want to make sure that I strengthen the internal democracy of the party, and to also to make sure that there is a credible membership register, where it will not give room for manipulation during the primaries. I will make sure that we fought imposition of candidates, and everything must be done in compliance with the provisions of the law.
Okay, if you look at, don't you think, if you look at the crisis in the party now, especially from your state, you don't think that it puts you in a disadvantaged position?
I'm more qualified. I have more upper hand than the other aspirants. The disadvantaged position, I have never seen it, because all the process which was enshrined in the constitution of the party, how leaders of the party can emerge from the ward to local government to state level, have been concluded. And the chairman, the state chairman, Alhaji Tukur Dampulani Mekatako, has been issued with a certificate of return as a duly elected state chairman of APC in Zamfara State. He was inaugurated along with 34 state chairmen, including FCT, and he was presented with a certificate of return. So for anybody to say the legitimacy of the party in the state have been recognized by the national leadership of the party. So anybody coming from Zamfara State is automatically recognized as a legitimate executive of a party in Zamfara, of APC in Zamfara State.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
I'm in a better advantage than any other person, and those calling for faction, they should vary their sword and embrace the party.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the program. Sani Abdullahi, we understand that you're APC chieftain and also an aspirant in the coming APC convention. We appreciate you coming. And also joining us virtually, Dr. Mikhail Ibrahim Barrow, who is also a lecturer that joins us virtually from Sokoto. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, we'll take a short break, and then when we come back, we'll conclude on the show. Please stay with us.
Well, with that, we draw the curtains on Daybreak today. Thank you so much for joining us from beginning to end. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, same station, Trust TV. I'm Dashin Husseina Usman. Thank you so much.
And I am Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for joining. In case you've missed, you can always catch up on our YouTube and also connect with us on our social media platforms. Bye for now. See you next time.